Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Market Enterprises Market Research Plan presentation. My name is Sean Mooney, and thank you very much for joining us. This research report was conducted on behalf of Market Enterprises. The purpose of this report was to obtain insights into the interests and needs of sports fans from underrepresented groups in Australia. Underrepresented groups were defined as those who are born overseas, those who have English as a second language, and consumers from different ages and genders. After gathering the requirements of the stakeholders, three objectives of the research were clearly defined. Firstly, to understand how the amount of foreign language commentary and sports content impacts the amount of time consumption of sports programs of consumers from different cultural backgrounds or that have English as a second language. Secondly, to understand how market enterprises can obtain more female subscribers. Lastly, to understand the relationship between consumer social lifestyle and time consumption of sports programs with a focus on consumer groups such as people born overseas, those with an English as a second language, as well as different genders and ages. To reach the three objectives, three hypotheses were formed. Firstly, there would be a strong positive correlation between the number of foreign language commentary and time consumption of sports programs of viewers born overseas or that have English as a second language. Secondly, there would be a positive correlation between an increase in coverage of women's sports and an increase in female subscribers. Lastly, there would be a positive correlation between the amount of time spent socializing, time consumption of sports programs. Target audience. A questionnaire was conducted with 385 respondents. For the purpose of this research, participants were required to live in Australia, be aged 18 to 54, and have an interest in sport. The research also required that participants were part of an underrepresented group, as defined in the research as people who were from diverse cultural backgrounds and people from different ages and genders. The respondents consisted of the following demographics: 41% were aged 18 to 24, 29% were 25 to 29, while the remaining 18% were in their mid-30s to late 40s, as seen here in Figure 1. Approximately 82% of participants were female and 18% were male, as we see here in Figure 2. The majority of participants were born in Australia at 64%, as we see here in Figure 3. However, other countries included India, Malaysia, Singapore, South Africa, the United Kingdom, and the United States. Additionally, some of the Australian-born participants had families that came from a diverse cultural background. As we see here in Figure 4, languages spoken at home include Basu-Malu, Croatian, Hindi, Serbian, and Spanish. Psychographics of the target audience included people who were interested in sports, who were actively involved in sports, or used to be, who consume sports as part of socializing. This includes going to the pub with friends and drinking beer or spending time with family, who use sports as a way to wind down. The behavioral elements of the target audience include purchase behavior. Why would a consumer sign up to a sports subscription? Do they want it all year round or only for specific events such as the World Cup or football season? Non-users, why wouldn't someone become a subscriber? The benefits they are seeking from sports subscription services such as entertainment value, social aspects of sports, or sports updates. Just briefly, our timeline. So most of the secondary research was conducted in January. Our primary research was conducted in February, and we began to collect the data in late February and early March and write up this report and presentation in the first few weeks of March. Data gathering and analysis. Qualitative data collected included both nominal data and ordinal data. Nominal data included items such as favorite sport and devices used to consume sport, as well as demographic information such as gender, country of birth, and languages spoken at home other than English. Ordinal data included the frequency of sports consumption, such as every day, at least once a week, at least once a month, and so on. Other qualitative data include information from open-ended responses that allowed the respondents to elaborate on their answers, such as how their experience of sports entertainment could be improved. For the quantitative information, continuous data was gathered, including the number of hours per day spent watching sports, the number of hours per week watching women's sports, and the number of hours per week spent socializing. The primary data collection method was a questionnaire, which included both closed and open questions. The questionnaire was designed with Google Forms. It was a self-completion questionnaire which was distributed through email and social media. The reason for selecting this method was that it was the most effective method of collecting a large number of respondents in a short period of time. The raw data was collected in an Excel spreadsheet. The secondary sources included online articles, reports, and database. These sources mostly focused on the consumption of sports entertainment across groups of consumers, including different age groups, genders, and cultural backgrounds. The secondary research provided quantitative data, but also an understanding of the external environment in which the market enterprises operates in. As the aim of the research was to collect the information on a population that was well defined, stratified sampling, a probability technique, was used in the sampling process. This focuses on random selection of a sample from certain strata or subgroups within the population. The sample size of the data was 385, which has a confidence interval of 95% and therefore a margin of error of 5%. The data analysis methods for the quantitative data included measures of central tendency, so that is the mean, median, and mode, but we also had the frequency distribution, the correlation coefficient, and standard deviation. Moving on to our findings now. The questionnaire that was conducted for the purpose of this research project found that 41% of respondents will spend at least once a week watching sport, 35% will watch sports at least once a year or less, while the remaining 24% watch sports at least once a month. On a day that respondents did watch sports, the average time spent consuming sport was 4 hours, the median watch time was 4 hours, and the mode was 5 hours, and the standard deviation was 1.14. The frequent distribution is shown here in Figure 5. The questionnaire found that the average number of hours spent watching foreign sports content per week was 4 hours. The median was 4 hours and the mode was 5 hours. The standard deviation for the amount of time consuming foreign language content was 1.46. There was a strong positive correlation of 0.96 for the number of hours spent watching sport per day and the hours spent watching foreign content per week. The frequency distribution for the amount of foreign content is shown here in Figure 6. This suggests that an increase in foreign language content will increase the number of subscribers who are from a diverse cultural background. The most popular sports for those born overseas were tennis at 34%, followed by football at 33%, and tennis and soccer at 17%. Cricket and soccer were at 17%. When asked what is the reason for initially watching sports content, 71% of consumers who were born overseas said they watched sports content for entertainment reasons, while the other 29% watched for nostalgic reasons, such as playing sports when they were younger. When asked how their experience of sports content could be improved, consumers who were born overseas suggested that there be different camera angles to choose from, as well as biographies of the players. Moving on to the findings for female consumers, the questionnaire found that the average number of hours per week spent watching women's sport content was 4 hours. The median was 4 hours and the mode was 5 hours, and the standard deviation was 1.46. The frequency distribution is shown in Figure 8. There was a strong positive correlation of 0.9 for the number of hours spent watching sport per week and the hours spent watching women's sport content. This suggests that the most effective way to increase the number of female subscribers is to have a dedicated coverage of women's sports. The questionnaire found that the most popular sport among female respondents was soccer at 29%, followed by football at 24%, and tennis at 18%, as we see here in Figure 9. When asked what the initial reason for watching sports content, 69% of female respondents said it was for the entertainment value, while other reasons included the social aspect of sport and nostalgic reasons. When asked how their experience of sport content could be improved, many of the female respondents said they wanted more access to women's sport coverage, while others said they wanted more statistical information, better in-depth analysis on live coverage, as well as biography of players. Moving on to the findings for the relationship between socializing and sports content. The questionnaire found that the average number of hours spent socializing per week was 4 hours, the median mode was 5 hours per week, and the standard deviation was 0.88. The frequency distribution is shown here in Figure 10. There was a strong positive correlation of 0.82 between the amount of time socializing and the amount of time watching sports. The questionnaire, however, also revealed that 31% of respondents consume sports for relaxing alone, showing that the consumption of sports content is not completely a sociable activity. But for those who do see sport as a part of socializing, it was not only the amount of time spent socializing that impacted sports consumption, but also the people who they chose to socialize with. also had an impact on sport consumption. A study conducted by the CQ University found that individuals who watch sports with adult family members consume sports more frequently, which the study defined frequently as once a week or more. Those who watch sports with friends consume less frequently, only once every couple of months, and even less frequency for those who consume sports entertainment with children under the age of 18. Trends and emerging market needs. Technological trends include augmented reality and virtual reality, esports, and short form content. I do want to discuss the social trends for women's sports and youth consumption. A survey carried out by Foxtel found that women's sport had gained popularity with men. 72% of male respondents in the survey said they watch women's sports. Data from Foxtel revealed that male viewers made up 2/3 of the overall viewership for events such as Australian Football's League, National Rugby League, and Women's Big Bash League competitions. When looking at youth consumption of sport, an article from Morning Consultant that looked at youth consumption found that 32% of Generation Z said they watched live sports through streaming services compared to 24% of the general adult population, while 28% of Generation Z said they watched sports via TV broadcasting compared to 47% of the general adult population. Almost 50% of Generation Z said they had never watched a sporting event in person, and around 45% of youth found sporting events to be too long. The most popular sources of sports news for youth consumers were YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. However, 39% of Generation Z said they were not interested in sports news. Millennials are more likely to watch sports content than Generation Z, and this was consistent across all devices. Economic trends, the subscription economy. This is where consumers buy products and services through a subscription service rather than casual buying. This provides an opportunity for businesses to build strong relationships with their customers, especially for a sports subscription service. An article from Mobico detailed that in 2020, the revenue for subscription businesses increased by 11.6%, while those of the companies in the S&P 500 index declined by 1.6%. Due to the state of the economy, some people may be hesitant to pay for a subscription service due to a lack of disposable income. However, according to the ABS, there was an increase in disposable income of 9% between 2009 and 2019, so there may be more willingness. Here's an overview of opportunities and threats. This is just a competitive analysis. As we can see here, our major threat in terms of competition is KO, as they have utilized latest technological trends, as we can see here. They do also have a variety of content, so they are a major threat right now. But we also, from our market research, do have a lot of opportunities, such as so for example, another major threat would be the youth consumption, the lack of youth consumption of sport. However, a good way to counter this would be to utilize the short form content, as that was identified as a major trend. I'm just going to talk about the recommendations. So based on the analysis of data, this is advised that market enterprises take action in the following areas. It is recommended that there be an increase in coverage of foreign sports content, and more specifically that there be an increase in coverage of football and tennis in foreign languages. For marketing materials of foreign sports content, there should be a focus on entertainment value, but also a focus on sports nostalgia. For women's sports content, it is advised that there should be a dedicated sports coverage, and there should be a focus on soccer, football, and tennis. For the marketing and promotion of women's sport, there should be a focus on entertainment value, but also the social aspect of sports nostalgia. Finally, the overall marketing and promotion of market enterprises sports subscription should be focused around socializing, as well as focus on sports form content. This is just an overview of our budget. So our budget total was $2,175, and these are just our references for the research. And that brings us to the end of this presentation. Once again, my name is Sean Mooney, and thank you very much for coming to this presentation.